business taxes, with stressing about all the time and all the money you spent on your taxes.
This is my bill?
Now Business Taxes is a TurboTax small business expert who does your taxes for you and offers year-round advice at no additional cost, so you can keep more money in your business. Now this is taxes. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com/business. Only available with TurboTax Live Full Service.
Acura's all-new ADX, a compact SUV that isn't just built for one thing. It's precision-crafted for everything. To escape the grind with available all-wheel drive. To go with your flow with available Google built-in.
Hey Google, turn it up.
Okay, turning up the volume. And crafted to be heard with an available Bang & Olufsen premium sound system. The all-new Acura ADX, crafted to match your energy. Acura, precision-crafted performance.
Take your vibes and go.
Google is a trademark of Google LLC.
From the field to the film room to the war room, we've got you covered every step of the way as the road to the draft starts right now. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Armchair Scouts. I am your host, Shane Haff. You can follow me on Twitter at ShaneHaffNFL. I'm joined today by my co-host and fellow draft enthusiast, Dibes. Give him a follow on Twitter at Mr. Crockpot. Be sure to check out his podcast, Party on Broad. Dibes, how are you doing today?
Doing well, man. We're the finish line is in sight. We're almost there. We
are almost there. This is our penultimate. I just like that word. Our penultimate positional ranking. We're covering wide receivers today, defensive backs next week, and we will have covered every non-specialist position in the lead up to the draft. So also joined by Dives co-host on Party on Broad, Ryan. Give him a follow on Twitter at Philly Sports PSA. Ryan, how you doing?
I'm doing great. And I'm a big fan of that word as well. So congrats.
It just feels like a smart person word.
It really is.
I don't get to use those very often in my normal life. So I like to do it every once in a while.
Sure. I'm sure that word is worth many points on Scrabble. So
yeah. So that was our penultimate co-host introduction. Last but not least, I'm joined by my co-host on Chalk Talk, Mark Henry Jr. Give him a follow on Twitter at Mark Henry Jr. _. Be sure to check out his Tough Cover radio show. I heard he had an awesome guest this last Saturday. Mark, how are you doing?
Yeah, we've had better here and there, but we had Shane on last Saturday. We're going to have Dives on next Saturday talking all things NFL draft. My show has become a full-on NFL draft. I'm going to have my agent reach out to Ryan's agent, see if we're able to book him on the show. Can't wait to talk about receivers. I feel like I'm going to be a little bit of a hater today.
All right. Here we go. Well, let's dive into it. We are going to do our top 7 wide receivers in the draft class. All in all, we're going to talk about 10 guys because we've got some unique guys here. So let's start off with our number 7s. Ryan, I will throw it to you first. Again, I do have some stats for some guys I will try to remember to throw out. But talk to us about Xavier Restrepo. He's number 7 for you. He's not in anybody else's top 7. I know he's number 12 for me. But talk to me about Restrepo.
Yeah, listen, this guy kind of, for me anyway, kind of came on late in the season, found me that way. But this guy I feel like is really good in traffic. He really has consistent hands, able to making really tough catches. He seems like a very smart, intelligent, wide receiver, knowing exactly where he needs to be lined up, knowing exactly where he needs to go. He probably is going to be more of a slot guy. But again, he has all the traits to be a very successful slot wide receiver in the league. He has really great burst, really great speed in short and intermediate routes. that I think would play well in the NFL. But I will say, again, he's a little bit on the smaller side. He seems to not really have that top end speed necessarily. Listen, he certainly needs some work. But again, I think he has all of the tools that can make him a really great slot receiver at the next level. He's got the short burst. He's got great separation. He's got incredible hands in traffic, and good, smart, intelligent style of play. So Restrepo, to me, I thought, kept rising up my board, and I wanted to make sure I included him here.
Yeah, he had.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say he had the second most yards per reception at 16.3, at least among the how many was it? 13 guys that I looked at, kind of the consensus board, top 13. So good yards per reception. He played 90.5% of his snaps in the slot, so he's going to be a slot limited player. Fourth highest yards after the catch per reception, and the second best drop rate. So I gave him a 3rd round grade, and I said he is a slot wide receiver in an RPO heavy offense, or like option route heavy offense. High floor as a special teams contributor, and depth receiver with a questionable ceiling. I just don't know what his ceiling is. Like, I think you're going to get a solid player. I just don't know like the ceiling. So Dives, what were you going to say on Restrepo?
I love him. I mean, he was one of my guys. I was a big Miami guy last year, as Ryan knows. And Restrepo was one of my favorites all season long. And it's worth noting he ran a 40-yard dash in the 4.8 and 5.1 range during his pro day. So his stock is somewhat tanking at this point.
Yeah, it's tough to be a 5'9" receiver and run a 4th percentile 40.
Get him out of here. I'm good. I don't need any 4.85 receivers. He ran the same 40 as Tristan Wirfs. He ran a slower 40 than Jordan Davis.
Oh, man.
I can't do it, guys.
Oh, come on. He's 5'10" at least.
He's 5'9" and he ran a slower thing than Jordan Davis. I can't wrap my head around how he had the production.
Now I need to see Jordan Davis and Xavier Restrepo in a foot
somebody
race.
get that? Somehow throw Patrick Mahomes on there too.
Yeah, the Mahomes one's crazy. Mahomes is kind of slow though. He's the
Patrick Mahomes runs 1/10 of a second faster than whoever is chasing him.
He's the weirdest runner. He runs so upright. I don't know how this became a Mahomes thing, but I'm not a Restrepo guy. He would have been if he ran. Let's say he ran like a 4.6 or a 4.58. He probably would have been my wide receiver 12 or wide receiver 11, actually. So he would have made my top 100. Now, see you.
All right, well,
Dead air is great for podcasting, Mark.
Yeah.
Wait, why is the dead air on me?
Oh, I thought you were trying to look something up because you stopped mid sentence.
I said see ya. I finished.
Oh,
no, he finished the sentence.
Oh, okay. My bad. All right. Well, Dives, let's go to your number 7, Jalen Noel, who is also not in anybody else's top 7. And I actually did not get around to watching Noel. So enlighten me. I don't know anything about him.
Yeah. We talk about Restrepo kind of tanking his draft stock during testing. Jalen Noel literally did the exact opposite. Just blew up the combine. Smaller guy, similar to Restrepo. He's a space creator. He's a great route runner. Good stop-start ability. Gets really good separation off the line of scrimmage. Great footwork. Knows how to freeze defenders. Plus short area quickness. 9.72 RAS score. Versatile playmaker. Iowa State put him in a lot of different positions. Slot, outside, in the backfield. A lot of pre-snap motion. I think he's just tailor-made. If this is kind of like the same offense we saw in the Commanders game, in the Chiefs game, and that kind of trickles over into 2025. I'm curious to see how Noel. I mean, obviously, he's not going to get a lot of targets on the Eagles here, but I think he's a winning slot receiver. I think he's a quality wide receiver 3. I need to see more yak from him. He only averaged 4 yards per reception after the catch, and giving his numbers, that makes me scratch my head a little bit. But I think Jalen Newell's stock is rising, and I have a day 2 grade on him, Jalen Newell.
All right. Does anybody else want to add anything in on Jalen Newell, where you had him ranked, anything like that?
I really like Noel. I have him as a 3rd rounder, and I feel like, honestly, if I dove into him earlier, he might have risen up for me after that combine thing. But he's solidly a 3rd round grade for me. There's a couple guys who I think you could compare him directly to. Khalil Shakir, pretty similar in size. Christian Kirk, pretty similar in size, maybe a little lofty for a 3rd round grade guy. But I like Noel.
All right. Ryan, anything you want to add on to that?
No, yeah, just Dives is right, man. He absolutely kind of went the opposite way of my guy and rose up, boards that way. And looking back at kind of his body of work, it's certainly well deserved. He's definitely a guy that I paid more attention to because of the combine, and that's all you need.
All right. Well, let's keep rolling then. And Mark, we will go to your number 7. He is number 2 for Ryan, number 4 for Dives, and he's number 8 for me. Talk to me about Luther Burden III.
Wow, I didn't realize he was 8 for you. I thought I was going to have to be like the Jon Snow meme with everybody coming after him. But yeah, I'm not a fan personally of Luther Burden. It's always a red flag for me when production goes down your senior year, and there's not much that changed around him. It's same play caller, same quarterback, a lot of the same pieces. That was a lot of the reason people liked Missouri as a potential kind of playoff team coming into the year, was because of the quarterback and Burden having that connection. 2023, 86 catches for 1,212 yards, 9 touchdowns, 14.1 yards per catch there. And then the next year only played 1 less game, and he's 25 less catches, about 600 less yards, 3 less touchdowns, about 3 less yards per catch at 11.1. I always hear him referred to as kind of like a big play threat. I just don't think a big play threat in their junior year, their final year of college, posts 11.1 yards per catch in the SEC. So there are obvious things to, grab onto with Burden. Go watch the 2023 tape. And I know that there's also some threads out there of kind of Brady Cook just missing him wide open, whether it be with throwing it to him and throwing it behind him or above him or just not even throwing it to him. I get it, but I do worry about kind of what happened last year. Was it an injury? Was it, the quarterback regressing? Was it teams kind of focusing in on him more now that he had a big year? I'm kind of low on Burden. He's a kind of a mid to low 2nd round grade for me. I know he's probably going to go top 20 though.
So he is out of the 13. He's 11th in yards per reception, 2nd in percentage of snaps played in the slot, 7th in yards after catch per reception, and 9th in yards per route run. And I kind of in the same spot as you. I gave him a 2nd round grade. I said I think he's a slot wide receiver who needs to land with a team that's willing to get creative with his usage. Like, you're going to have to use him in motion and stack alignments, things like that, to manufacture those free releases, because I don't think he didn't deal with press coverage much at Missouri, and I don't think he's going to do that well at the NFL level. And for a slot guy, you would like to see him as a blocker some, and I didn't like his effort as a run blocker when he was asked to do it. Didn't run a very diverse route tree, a lot of slot fades, crossing routes, and screens. And so those are some of the reasons I have him lower. And like, I get the intrigue. Like, his 40 time was good, and he's really good with the ball in his hands after the catch. Tacks the ball away from his frame. He's a hands catcher. He's got really good special teams ability. So that's why I think he's going to go higher than I have him. I just do have some concerns about the release package and route tree.
And are we sure he's that good of a route runner in general? Like, I don't think he's a good route runner, really. So it's just, okay. I just have too many concerns. I had a weird comp for him, but I went with Sammy Watkins. Like, I think he's going to be disappointing, but will stick around inevitably as like a number 3 receiver, number 2-ish receiver for a long time.
All right. Dives, you and Ryan were obviously quite a bit higher than Mark and I were. So who was he number 2 for? Was it Dives? No, it was Ryan.
Yeah, I think it was me.
He's number 2 for Ryan. Ryan, he's number 2 for you. What do you like about him so much? Does what we're saying kind of resonate with you and you just view it differently?
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. And I get it. He kind of has this, diva perception. And, again, I know that a lot of people focus on, appeared to kind of give up after the loss at Alabama. And, again, he has this year that it's just underwhelming after such a great year last year. And, again, I understand there are a lot of red flags, but when you just look at the skill set, what he is, what he can be, again, I think he's just great at separation, great first step, hands that you'd wish every wide receiver to have. And again, he has some really great yak ability that I think, given his size, I think could translate really well to the NFL. But I think some of these other concerns certainly are valid and need to be addressed. And again, I think right team, right coaching, growing up a bit, I think all of those things can easily turn into him being a great wide receiver in this league.
All right. Dibes, anything that you want to add on to that?
Just an elite recruit out of high school. Before last season, he was right there with T-Mac as the top wide receiver in this draft. He's a big-time playmaker. He's probably a late first round kind of guy, but ball tracking, deep threat, with the ball in his hands. There's some Deshaun Jackson in his game. And when he's cooking, man, he's fun to watch.
All right. Well, that is Luther Burden, a guy that we were pretty divided on. Let's go to my number 7. It is Jaden Higgins out of Iowa State. He is number 5 for Mark. He's outside the top 7 for Dibes and Ryan. Higgins is a 2-star recruit who went to Eastern Kentucky for 2 seasons before transferring to Iowa State, where he was a 2-year starter. He was second team All Big 12. He's 6'4" and 1/8", 214 pounds, ran a 4.47 40. Overall has a 9.63 relative athletic score. 7th in yards per reception, 5th in slot percentage at 28%, 12th in yards after the catch per reception, 4th in yards per route run, 1st in drop rate, and 8th in contested catch conversion percentage. He had 1,183 yards and 9 touchdowns in 2024. He's got great size for the position, and he has a high football IQ. I think as he runs routes, he attacks the quarterback's leverage throughout the route stem to create separation. And he ran a lot of routes from a lot of different alignments at Iowa State. He has great hands, 2.2% drop rate this season. That is actually the worst season he's had out of the last 3 seasons. So he's very sure-handed, solid in contested catch situations. He tracks the ball well. He flashes late hands at the catch point. He can climb the ladder to make catches. He had a 93rd percentile vertical jump at the combine. However, he does lack the explosiveness or the twitchiness to prevent teams from pressing him. And then he's not the best at shaking press coverage quickly. So he can struggle to separate at times when he's pressed. He's basically reliant on physicality and manipulation to make up for subpar cutting out of his routes. And he's not as dominant at the catch point as you would like him to be. He's not as dominant of a run blocker as you would probably like someone who's his size to be, especially if you're projecting him to be a big slot, which is what I'm projecting him to be. He could maybe be an extra receiver, but I think his best fit is like a big power slot, which drops his value some. Slot guys just don't get drafted as highly. So I put a 2nd round grade on him because I'm unsure about him as an X receiver. So that is Jaden Higgins. He's number 7 for me. Mark, he's just a little bit higher for you. Do you have a comp for him? And what are your kind of thoughts on Jaden Higgins overall?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite comps. It's actually one my buddy Nick McClay, who does some good work with the draft, came up with. Michael Pittman Jr. A lot of similarities there on the card, both 6'4" kind of guys, and Michael Pittman has some kind of power slot tendencies as well. And I think Shane might be right that that's the best way to use him. I also think that I kind of look at him as I look at the power slot thing as like a versatile plus thing for him. So I actually do think he can be an outside guy with that size. So I'm pretty bullish on Higgins sticking around and being a pretty solid receiver for a long time to come. He's in the same tier as Golden and Burden for me. And I think he's probably going to go much later than both of them.
All right. Well, there you have it. I guess Dibes, Ryan, he's not in your top 7. Is there anything you want to throw out about him as well?
I like him. I think he's a day 2 guy. You look at this draft, it's loaded with slot guys. I agree with Mark. I think he can be an X receiver. There's not a lot of X receiver prospects in this draft. You look at Kirk Coleman, you look at Xavier Legette going high second round last year. I think there's a chance he gets overdrafted, high round 2 kind of guy.
All right. Ryan, anything you want to add on before we move on?
I think everybody kind of said it really well. And like I said, he wasn't necessarily in my top 7, but still, I have a kind of a late day 2 grade on him.
Yeah, even I only had a mid day 2 grade or a mid round 2 grade. So
yeah,
nothing crazy.
All right, let's get to our number 6s. And Ryan, I'll throw it to you first. This guy's number 6 for both you and I. He is not in the top 10 for Mark and Dibes, but given our conversations off the air before we started, I'm going to let you pronounce his name.
Elick Iomanner.
Nice. I was waiting on you to say Eric.
Yeah, I know. You look at it too quick, and it looks exactly like Eric, but it's Elic. And unlike Restrepo, Iomanner, 6'2", 205 from Alberta, Canada, coming into Stanford. He's a very, very good route runner who really seems to kind of the shorter and more intermediate route kind of very dominant in those ranges. Really is able to kind of maneuver through traffic, but also has that vertical threat ability. He seems to have great control over his body and is very physical when asked to be a blocker and very willing in that in that effort. Certainly has the ability kind of finding those soft spots in zone coverage. And just, again, really great hands, something that you really want to see in your wide receivers. But it's a bit inconsistent when it comes to running those routes. When he does, it looks great. But sometimes he just kind of doesn't. And it's kind of a little infuriating to kind of figure out why that is. He has a little bit of a problem with drops. I think I saw 12 since 2023. And again, he was on a very, very poor Stanford team. I think they only won 3 games last year. Ended up the year with 831 receiving yards with 6 touchdowns. I think he's just a guy that, can grow. I think he has a lot of raw ability, just a lot of things that just need refinement. And I think, again, more experience, better coaching can kind of help with some of the inconsistencies in the route and maybe shore up those hands that, seem to plague him with some of those drops. So,
yeah, he had a 8.7% drop rate this year, which was 12th out of the 13 guys that I looked at, just under a 9% drop rate both years at Stanford.
Yeah.
But he was 8th in yards per reception, only played 13.2% of his snaps in the slot, which I think he could maybe be a slot guy in the NFL. He just didn't do it much at Stanford. But first in average depth of target. They used him on a lot of deep balls and things. And he's not super explosive. Like, he's got long speed, but it takes him some time to get there. I think he's just such a good ball tracker. He's really good at tracking the ball over his shoulders, showing late hands. I think he's a really good route runner as well, despite the fact he didn't really run a lot of different routes at Stanford. It was mostly like goes and hitches and then digs and slants. But I do think he's a savvy route runner. And so you can work with that. I gave him a second round grade. I said he's a Z receiver, but I do think you could bump him into the slot. It's just not something that Stanford really did. So that's where I was at. Dibes, Mark, do either of you guys have anything that you want to throw out there about him?
He was one of the few to bully Travis Hunter. Go watch the tape on him against Colorado. He was sensational in that game. Not all the targets were against Travis Hunter, but when he did get his opportunity, man, he clowned him a couple of times. And like Ryan said, I just wish he transferred to a different school and got a little more recognition. I've seen his draft stock go from top 10 to day 2. So he's another guy that's all over the place.
Yeah. That Colorado game, he ended up with 13 catches, 294 yards, and 3 touchdowns.
He's literally unstoppable. They were literally just throwing straight to him every play, and they could not stop him.
Yeah.
All right.
Real quick, I do have a comp there. If you want to throw that up. Juju. I think that makes a lot of sense. Little West Coast comp. Both 6'1". Elick, actually, or Elick. How do you say the first name? I know how to say the last name.
I think it's Elick.
I say Elick. I don't know.
Elick,
whatever it is. He's actually faster than Juju and probably a little bit more athletically gifted, but probably not quite as sure-handed as Juju, I'd say. But he's a round 3 grade for me. He'd be my wide receiver 9.
All right. Well, let's keep rolling on. Dibes, who do you have at number 6?
Sorry, Mark. I'm taking your guy. It's Emeka Egbuka here out of the Ohio State Buckeyes. Not as explosive as some of these other guys that we just talked about. He's only averaged 12.5 yards per catch over the last 2 years. But, man, his ability to be just a primary target in a pro offense at Ohio State, there's a lot of things that get you excited that can translate to the next level. He put up similar numbers to his former teammate, Jackson Smith and Jigba, a guy that has nearly 2,000 receiving yards and 10 scores with the Seahawks the last 2 years. I think Egbuka is a guy that can win in all 3 levels. Very good route runner, quick feet, reliable hands. I think he's one of the best slot receivers in this class, which we saw JSN do a lot of damage with the Seattle Seahawks last year. He doesn't have like high-end twitch. He doesn't have high-end explosiveness, which might limit his ceiling. Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, but like I see a lot of Roman Wilson kind of in him. High IQ, run blocker. Not an elite ceiling, but just really good at what he does. Just good athlete, good body catcher, good blocker, great feel for zone. He's a guy that does all the little things, and I think he's a first round prospect.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say he is 6th for Dibes, 4th for Ryan, 3rd for Mark, and 5th for me. So go ahead, Mark.
Everything in terms of a comp, I don't have a comp for this guy. He's one of my only guys in my top like 60 or 70 that I don't have a comp for. Every comp is either too lofty or not respectful. It feels like I've heard Keenan Allen, I've heard Terry McLaurin, I've heard
Brandon Stokely. I like Brandon Stokely.
I think if I'm putting him in the top 30, I think Stokely's probably too low of a comp. I think I'd want a little bit more. I feel like Stokely was a little bit of a Peyton Manning creation.
Okay.
But I can't find the right guy. I haven't landed on it. I think like if you made me say one, I guess I'm saying McLaurin.
Okay.
I mean, I do think what is McLaurin, a top what receiver? Like 15,
15?
20?
Probably.
Yeah, I mean, like Booker could be like the 20th best receiver in his prime in a couple of years. Like, I haven't found the perfect comp. Everybody raves about what a teammate this guy is, like the entire Ohio State team. There was some piece about like everybody was asked about like who the leader of the team was or who's like everybody's favorite guy, and like every Ohio State NFL draft prospect said Egbuka. Not that we usually don't dive too much into like the character on guys, but I heard someone on a podcast be like, if it's a close kind of tiebreaker between Egbuka or Luther Burden in a conversation about who to draft, Luther Burden, I don't think he's going to be winning any like humanitarian awards anytime soon, and it seems like Egbuka might just be Walter Payton Man of the Year, Rookie of the Year. No, I thought it was relevant to bring up because I heard some talk about it on the podcast today.
Yeah, he was 9th in yards per reception, took 81% of his snaps out of the slot, 8th in yak per reception, 5th in yards per route run, and 6th in drops. I said that I have health concerns. Like, he dealt with knee and ankle injuries throughout his time at Ohio State, and that's a big one for me. And then the other knock I had on him was struggling to get off of press coverage, which you combine that with questionable length and ability to stack boundary cornerbacks. And I mean, he's going to be a slot. I don't think you're going to play him outside. Yeah. And so then you get into that same conversation that like, I really like everything else, and he brings special teams value and all these other things. But how high are you going to put a slot-only receiver? Because that is kind of what I view him as. So that's what got him into a second-round grade for me. I said he's best as a slot wide receiver in a timing-based or RPO-heavy offense because he's very good at hitting those landmarks when he needs to be there and running those sorts of timing routes with two-way goes out of the slot. So I think he could be really good at the right team. I just don't know how highly you take a really good slot, and maybe that's a bigger conversation to have at some point. But Dibes,
he's my 45th best prospect on my big board, but I do think there's a chance he goes first round.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a better than even chance he goes first round.
If you want to pop that chart up, the McLaurin comp does work on the RAS chart, similar size there. I actually wouldn't have guessed that Egbuka would have tested as well as he did athletically. Like from watching him, I don't know if you guys agree or does that athletic? I don't really necessarily feel like that athleticism like pops off the screen. So I feel like his combine performance kind of strengthens my belief that he is like a top 3 to 5 guy in this class.
He's a gamer too. I'm sure he's happy to get out of the shadow of Marvin Harrison Jr. too.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's keep rolling then. Let's go to a guy who he's number 6 for Mark. He's number 5 for Dibes and Ryan. He's number 3 for me. Mark, talk to me about Matthew Golden.
Yeah, Matthew Golden's been a high riser here. It seems like if you take Travis Hunter out, it seems like he's probably going to be the second highest drafted receiver in this class. And he tore apart the combine in terms of how he ran. That's all he did. So, and he did it well, running a 4.29 at the combine. He's only really like a one season performer here, but he had 58 catches, 987 yards, 9 touchdowns. He did 17 yards per catch. This is a big game or a big play maker, in my opinion. People say that about Burden and other players in this class. I do buy into it more with Golden. I'm a little bit more. I wish I kind of had more to go on with him, a little bit more production, a little bit more kind of tape to go on. I'm not as in love and falling for him as a top 15 to 20 pick as a lot of others are. He's right there with Higgins and Burden as mid-second round grades for me. The comp that I came up with was Emmanuel Sanders. This was straight from the RAS website. And it's right. It's if you want to pull it up there, it's not a full chart because he only ran obviously, but you have the size and the speed, and it's pretty similar. Emmanuel Sanders was a guy who I kind of never thought was as good as I think the general consensus thought he was, but he had a pretty nice career and had, I think, a year that was like a top 5 fantasy season So he definitely had a nice little peak, and maybe Golden could too.
All right. So I'll give you some of the stats on him. He was 6th in yards per reception, took 23.7% of his snaps out of the slot, 10th in yak per reception, 13th in yards per route run, 4th in average depth of target, 7th in drop rate. And you mentioned like him being a big gamer. For the first 12 games of the season this year, he had 1.6 yards per reception and 48 yards per game. In the final 4 games, he had 3.4 yards per reception and 102.8 yards per game. And so, he blew up under the brightest lights. He didn't do a lot before that. And so you get into like I talk about, I mean, it's not that he's like a 5th-year player. 5th-year breakout guys are always concerning for me. But then you're talking about an even smaller sample size of a breakout just late down the season at Texas. But he's really explosive. And, of course, you see that at the combine. He runs the 4.29. He transitions to a runner quickly after the catch. Surprisingly, at his size, 5'11", 191 pounds, he's really good in contested catch situations. He brought in 70% of his contested catch situations this year. Now, he only had 10 of them, but he does a good job with body control, getting his feet down at the sideline. And I think he ran a well-defined route tree, so I don't think he's a slot-limited guy. And he's done a lot of kick return duties, and so you can get him on the field that way. But he's a really poor run blocker. He can't really get off of press coverage well. And he has a history of drops. Like he had an 11.5% drop rate in 2 years at Houston. Now, he did seem to clean that up this year. It was down to 6.5%, but again, it's a 1-year sample size. So I have a first-round grade on him. I said he's a Z or a slot receiver with return ability, and I think he can pretty well fit, honestly, on any football team that doesn't ask their slots to block a ton out on the edge. So that's why I had him up at number 3. Dibes, Ryan, do either of you guys have anything you want to add in?
I really like him. I said it on Birds of the Roundtable. I think there's a chance he's the first wide receiver off the board during draft night. And you said it. He's explosive. He's a playmaker. The way he snap, crackle, pops off his routes is amazing. Like there's some Devontae Smith. I'm not comparing him to Devontae, but like he makes DBs look like idiots. He is explosive. And I agree. I don't think he's just limited to the slot as well. So I think his potential is really high. I think he's more of a great wide receiver 2 than a wide receiver 1 in the NFL. And I think his my final point on this is I watched a lot of Texas last year, and I kept waiting for Isaiah Bond to be that guy that takes Texas to the next level of their offense. And Matthew Golden was the one that really kind of was doing all the body adjusting and making crazy catches because Quinn Ewers can't throw an accurate pass to save his life. So for me, Matthew Golden, I thought, was the big standout there outside of Anthony Hill on that defense.
All right. Ryan, anything you want to add in there?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to, kind of agree that, his speed and his ability, to track the ball is certainly going to do him well in the NFL. And, again, he's was great as a returner as well. I kind of couldn't agree more there, Dives. I was waiting for Bond to kind of take the step, and he never really did. Certainly not like Golden, and I think Golden certainly has a chance here to potentially be one of the first, if not the first, wide receiver taken.
All right. Well, let's keep rolling then. We've already hit on everybody's number 5. At number 4, Mark and I both have Trey Harris. Dibes and Ryan both have Trey Harris number 3. So Mark, you're holding up a finger anyways. So tell me what you want to say and then talk to me about Trey Harris.
I have him 3rd. I do have him 3rd. I have him in I didn't realize, I didn't see it in the graphic and
did I switch those?
I have Trey 3 and Igbokwe 4. Doesn't matter though, because I have them literally next to each other in my rankings. I have the exact same draft grade on them, so it's personal preference. I love Trey Harris. This is like the definition of he's like 66 in PFF, and outside the top 50 on the Ringer guide, and outside the top 50 on all these guides. And I've taken him in mocks for every team when I do these mocks for all these teams that need receivers. And I thought I was going to be the Trey Harris guy, and I'd be fighting for him and fighting the good Trey Harris fight. And then I hear Dives has him 8th overall. And I'm like, well, I guess he's Dives guy now. Wow. Because I have him as like my top graded second rounder. He's a top 30 guy for me. I loved him last year. And I think if he would have gotten a chance to play a full season and not just 8 games, I think we would have been talking, just 128.8 yards per game. You add, another 500-600 yards there. We're talking about 1,600 yards. We're talking about probably, close to 80 catches, close to 10 plus touchdowns. And this is coming off the year before, his first year at Ole Miss, 54 catches, close to 1,000 yards, 18.2 yards per catch, 8 touchdowns. This guy just makes big plays. He makes big catches in the end zone. I know that the contested catch numbers are like a little less than ideal. I think that they're pretty low for a guy of his size. But I feel like what I see on tape, he has the ability to go up and get it. And I think a lot of the time he's open, so he doesn't have to. But I'm all aboard the Trey Harris train. I think he's going to be a stud. I don't really have a good comp though.
I feel like you keep saying that about the guys that you like.
I know. I'm struggling with receivers this year at finding guys that either don't feel disrespectful or too lofty. I feel like that's what's going on.
Yeah. Well, he was first in yards per reception, played 13.5% of his snaps in the slot, third in yak per reception, first in yards per route run, 5th in average depth of target, 11th in drop rate, and 5th in contested catch conversion percentage. I think he could be an X or a Z receiver for you. To be honest, he's strong at the catch point. He uses his hands well to create separation, especially on like slant routes when he's pressed. Good route runner for his size. And it's always a sliding scale with a guy that's 6'2.5", like a 5'11" guy's better be a better route runner to make it at wide receiver than a 6'2.5" guy. But I think he's a good route runner for his size. He understands leverage and positioning. He does a good job of like pressing cornerbacks to a spot before breaking off his routes, and he's a solid blocker. Now, as you could guess by his yards per reception, a majority of his routes were deep balls, a lot of go balls, a lot of slants, a lot of hitches. He doesn't have top level speed or size. So I do think he needs to develop more as a route runner. Needs to work on his releases at times, but I gave him a first round grade. He's a back end around 1 guy for me. That's kind of where I'm at. Dives, anything you want to add in on Trey Harris?
I've never understood why there's no hype around this guy. This guy was on pace to shatter records if he stayed healthy. I agree a lot, Shane. I think he play inside. I think he play outside. Extremely physical wide receiver. Elite ball skills, elite ball tracking. I think he's better after the catch than he gets credit for. Had a 9+ RAS score. Again, very physical, can just dominate corners and knows how to create separation. I think he's a total package, man. I've always been a big fan of his. When he got hurt, so did Ole Miss's chances for a national championship. He was the engine of that team offensively. I love Trey Harris, and I'm going to stay on that hill. That's just my take.
Go further with the American Express Business Gold Card. Earn 3 times membership rewards points on flights and prepaid hotels when you book through AmexTravel.com. Whether your destination is a business conference or a client meeting, your purchases will help you earn more points for future trips. Experience more on your travels with Amex Business Gold. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-gold. Amex Business Gold Card. Built for business by American Express.
All right. Well, let's keep rolling then. That takes us.
Whoa.
My bad. I thought I threw that one to you first, and then I realized as I started to say that I didn't.
Listen, I think Dives just really needs to thank me for helping him get onto the Trey Harris train, because I was the conductor of this bad boy last year. I fell in love with Trey Harris last year. This dude, I just felt like was, one of those that wide receivers that could absolutely develop into a true number one guy. And you're right, Dives. As soon as he went down, it was absolutely over. Even though they had, some weapons there at Ole Miss, Trey Harris seemed to be the kind of the thing that kept him on the tracks there, to use yet another train reference. But yeah, I absolutely love this guy. And Mark, I don't know. I feel like I have to fight everybody for Trey Harris, like number one ranking here. I would mock him to the Eagles second round every chance I got. Love this dude, and man, what an addition to the Philadelphia Eagles. Not that they need it, but I would love it anyway.
Ryan is the king, so we do during college football season. We do a fantasy football thing, and he'll pick these random wide receivers, and I'm like, I honestly have no idea. I've never heard of them ever. And 2 years ago it was Trey Harris, and I remember being like, who is this guy? And he's just ever since then I've been all in on Trey Harris. I'm
pretty sure it was the LSU game where he went 8 for 153 and a touch, and then later on went 11 for 213 the next time I picked him. So
he owns LSU.
Yeah, he's an absolute baller. I love me some Trey Harris. Man, I wish the Eagles could somehow get him.
All right. Now, Ryan, is it all right if I move on?
Yeah, no, please go ahead. I'm off my Trey Harris soapbox.
Well, I'm going to throw to you first after we talk about this guy, because he is number 2 for Mark and I, number 2 for Dibes and Mark, and he's number 1 for me, and he is not on your top 7. In fact, I believe you would say he doesn't even belong in this show, period. Which is weird.
I was like, who did I forget that?
Which is the weirdest statement I've ever made in years of covering the draft. But it's Travis Hunter. And I think Mark and Dibes were pretty content to be like, let's just consider him a defensive back, because we're going to have the same conversation about him. And maybe that was true, but I couldn't leave him off because he was going to end up being my wide receiver 1. And I don't think he's going to play and I'll get into it. But anyways, Ryan held out and did not put him onto his wide receiver ranking at all. So I'll throw it to you first, Ryan. You can tell us why. But Dives, talk to me about Travis Hunter.
I think when you start with Travis Hunter, the conversation starts why he's not my number 1 wide receiver. I have Hunter as my number 2 overall prospect, but I have another wide receiver that's rated higher. I think given the size and the X receiver and things like that, I think the other receiver's body control is off the charts, prototypical X receiver. But when you get to Travis Hunter, I think there's a chance he may be more of a gadget guy, more limited to the slot. And I think that's not a negative. I think he's just at his best there. I think his ceiling is a 1B type of receiver, kind of like Devontae, which is still valuable. Don't get me wrong. I just don't know if he's an alpha type wide receiver that you can build a passing offense around. He's got elite, nimble feet. He's got unbelievable stop on a dime ability. Some of the best agility in the draft. That twitch athleticism you're looking for. Super smooth, super fluid, absolutely dynamic at the catch point. He's my number 2 cornerback prospect in this draft. And that is mostly due to his experience as a wide receiver. We've seen in previous drafts, wide receivers often that were former quarterbacks kind of transitioned to become very good route runners that can exploit coverages. And I think the same principles apply of a guy moving from wide receiver to a full-time defensive back. I agree, Ryan. I think he's a better defensive back. But right now I'm 80-20. That is a DB over wide receiver, but that's just me. But don't get me wrong. In terms of just a natural athlete, in terms of just pure athleticism, he's got to be on this list.
All right. Ryan, I promise, and I'll keep my promise. I'll throw it to you first here. Don't ask me to talk about Tet McMillan. I'm ending the show before you get a chance. But talk to me about Travis Hunter.
Listen, I get it. Believe me, I understand. But like Dive said, I'm glad Dive said the 80-20 thing, because I think it's more like 95-5. And it's not because he's not talented wide receiver. It's not, he has all the skills. And I think because he has both, that's what makes him even better at the other, because he has the mindset, he has the skill, he has the ability, he has the speed, he has the hands. All of it makes sense. I just think projecting him into the NFL, projecting a two-way player at this point, I feel like it's just not realistic. I just don't think any team is going to want to have that. They're going to want to put him into one spot, make him the best he can be at that one spot. And I think the best way he can help an NFL team is as a corner, not as a wide receiver. So when, Cleveland ultimately drafts him, they should have him as a corner, not splitting time with both, because it's going to take away from his development from both. And you know what? Cleveland can't really afford to screw this up. If, again, that he is going to go to Cleveland. But, again, not a knock on him. I just am very steadfast with my thought that he is a corner, and a corner he shall be in the NFL. So I didn't even bother putting him on my wide receiver list.
Yeah, so I gave him a first-round grade. I said that he could be a potential all-pro at cornerback, or that he could be a very good receiver. I think his ceiling's higher at cornerback.
Sure.
If a team I don't think he should play both sides, but if a team evaluated him purely as a wide receiver, he's still my top receiver. So I think he's deserving of a top pick. I made him a red chip player at receiver and a blue chip player at cornerback. And I don't think he's going to play both. I think you play him at cornerback. And if you want to have a package of plays, use him as a gadget manufactured touch guy, that's fine. And, maybe that scratches that itch for him and it makes him happy with it. But he has rare athleticism, elite foot speed and hip fluidity and body control. He changes direction really well, has elite short area quickness and long speed. He's got really good hands. He thrives in contested catch situations, 68.8% conversion rate in contested catch situation. And he's only 6'1", and he's 185 pounds. It's more about like his body positioning than anything else. I think he sets up routes well, and he manipulates defenders well. Excellent in scramble drill situations, which maybe that's just a chemistry with Shedeur thing, but he's good improvising in that way. I do think he needs to develop his release package against press coverage better, and he did not play from the slot much, only 6% of his snaps. So he dealt with press. I think he could be better at that. Mark's so offended by what I said, he just left. And he was putting a comp up in the backstage, and now he's popping back in. I know he pushed the wrong button. Mark, I said that you're so offended by what I'm saying, you just left. But
no. I agreed with everything you were saying.
He's undersized. Specifically, he's underweight, but he primarily played X receiver for Colorado, and I just don't think you're going to do that with him at the NFL. So to be clear, if I'm drafting him, it's to play cornerback. I think his higher ceiling is there. I think there's more value in a high-level cornerback, but he's still my wide receiver one in the draft, so I wanted to talk about him. So, Mark, anything you want to add on to that?
No, I think you guys all hit it. I think part of his value is that he brings both, obviously, if he's not going to just be a corner. For me, I think he would probably be like a lower first round grade for me, just as a receiver. He would be my wide receiver too. I don't think there's that big of a gap between him as a receiver to like Trey Harris or Egbuka. I think he'd be right in that tier, a little bit above those guys, because he is so talented at the catch point. He's definitely incredible at that. So you have to give that credit for him, and he definitely gets that from being a corner as well, I think. So there is an argument that, if he was just focusing on receiver and not playing both, maybe he'd be better than he is even. So you can make that argument. He's a weird evaluation. We'll probably never have to evaluate another guy like Travis Hunter again. So
yeah. All right. Well, let's get to the number ones for everybody but me. He's number 2 for me. And he would be number 1 if I'm not considering Travis Hunter. It's Tet McMillan out of Arizona. He was a football, basketball, and volleyball player in high school, 4-star recruit coming out. And he went to Arizona along with his high school quarterback, which is kind of a cool story. He set a program record for most receiving yards by a true freshman in 2022 with 702, and then had 1,400 and 1,300 yard seasons in 2022 and 2023. 6'4" and 1/8, 219 pounds, ran a 4.5 340. He's got great size for the position, and he still offers smoothness and elusiveness after the catch. He was 9th in yards after catch yards after catch per reception, 1st in yards per reception, 3rd in yards per route run. I'm getting all tongue tied, and 3rd in ADOT. He was also given a ton of contested catch situations, 30 of them, which was most in this class, and he converted 60% of them, which was good for 6th. And he does high point the ball really well. He thrives in those contested catch opportunities. He catches it away from his frame. He's got strong hands, not easily disrupted, only a 7.7% drop rate. Ran a well-diversified route tree at Arizona. It was a lot of go balls and hitches, but he was used over the middle of the field as well, and I think he's a good ball tracker. He doesn't have top-end speed or agility. It's good enough to threaten vertically, but it's not an elite trait for him. And I do think he can struggle with press at times. He either overwhelms the press with physicality or he loses it. And so I think he needs more refinement in his release package, and he can grow as a route runner as well. Like, he should be able to out-leverage cornerbacks throughout the route stem with more ease than he does. And, I thought run blocking is not his thing. I thought there was some poor effort run blocking. They used him as a clear-out route runner a lot, I think, to kind of get away from that. But I gave him a first-round grade. He's my number 2 overall receiver. He's going to be an X receiver at the next level. So that's kind of where I'm at with Tet McMillan. You guys universally have him number 1. Mark, I'll throw it to you first. What are your thoughts on McMillan?
I'm a Tet McMillan guy. He was initially my number 1 overall player in this class. Will Johnson became my number 1 overall player once I kind of dove into the tape on everything. Tet's my number 3 guy overall, so he's clearly my number 1 receiver. He's the only X receiver that I think you can draft and plug in day 1 as your starting X with no kind of questions in this draft. And I'm of the opinion that the New England Patriots need to rush the card to the podium to take Tet McMillan number 4. I think it's going to be Will Campbell, maybe Armand Membu, but probably Will Campbell. And I was a hater on this. This is a little off the rails for this evaluation, but I was a hater of the Stephon Diggs signing. But then you see the guaranteed money and you're like, whatever, not a terrible signing. They have to spend money. If the Stephon Diggs signing prevents the Patriots from drafting Tet McMillan and giving Drake May his long-term kind of weapon to kind of grow with, then I think that the signing, I'm back to it being a disaster. So that's my long way of saying the Patriots better draft McMillan at 4. If not, it will be interesting to kind of see where he lands. Maybe Carolina at 8. But besides that, you look at the top 10, I don't know if any of them will be targeting wide receiver necessarily. I think there's a chance he kind of falls all the way to 12. And Jerry has a chance to pair him next to CeeDee Lamb, but I hope not.
All right. Dibes, anything you want to add in on Tet McMillan?
I'm a big fan. I think he's 10, 15 pounds of muscle away from being a Mike Evans clone. And just like Mark said, just dominant X receiver. I think he is better than we think he is as well. Arizona was a massive disappointment last year. They went 4-8, and I thought they were going to be pretty solid, and they kind of just shat the bed. Sorry. And there were times when he could have had the ball a lot more. So for me, I think T-Mac is a slam dunk. He's my number 5 prospect in this draft. Blue chip all the way.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this. I'm just kidding, Ryan. Ryan, what do you want to say about McMillan?
At this point, I was just kind of like, yeah. No, listen, this guy's a stud. It's I kind of try to compare it to last year. Such a great wide receiver class, such a great top end class. Where might Tet kind of fall in, because I think there were certainly better prospects last year. But that being said, I think, while everybody kind of talks about maybe, he lacks kind of top end speed. I kind of look at some of the other abilities that he's brought to the table. He is, again, I think Dive said it great. It adds a little bit more muscle. He can really be a big physical wide receiver in this league and truly be a number one. I also agree with Mark that New England should absolutely sprint up and get Drake May, his guy, for the next, at least 5 years. But he has the ability to kind of take over a game. He just has great hands. He excels at kind of finding, soft spots in the zone, and uses his size to his advantage, especially in the red zone. I will say again that bulking up will certainly help. He seems to kind of get, out of his head or out of his zone with particularly physical corners, I've noticed. So again, that extra muscle, I think, might take care of that. And honestly, he is going to be a great number one wide receiver in this league for whoever gets him.
All right. Well, there you have it, guys. Our top 7 wide receivers. We ended up talking about a few more guys. I'll give you guys a shot here. If there's somebody you want to honorable mention, shout out before we get out of here. Somebody that missed your top 7, but a guy you really liked for whatever reason on film. I'll throw it around to you guys as we do our closing thoughts here. So, Dibes, honorable mention, shout out if you've got one. Any final thoughts? The floor is yours.
Yeah, not a position the Eagles will be looking at, but my honorable mention, Jack Besh out of TCU. Yes, another TCU wide receiver. But he's a warrior. I'm not going to get into his story. There's a lot of tragedy on his family side. But, man, he really rose at the Senior Bowl, continued to rise during the Combine. He's like a lot of these other prospects, he's not an elite burner, but, man, as a route runner, as a separator, short area agility, he's got a lot of tools, and he just seems to make plays all the time. So Jack Besh is a guy that I want to shout out, and I'm, again, really rooting for him.
All right. Ryan, same to you. Any honorable mention, final thoughts? The floor is yours.
Yeah, my honorable mention is Jalen Royals out of Utah State. This is a guy, kind of a late bloomer, kind of more of a basketball track guy, former high jumper, former basketball player, and that certainly kind of shows in some of his routes. But great hands, certainly dangerous after the catch. Absolutely blazing speed. I think he ran a 4.32. I think this is a guy that could kind of be one of those lost in the shuffle, kind of sneaky good guys that, get to the right situation and all of a sudden people are going to know his name quick.
All right. Mark, same to you, man. Anything you want to plug? Honorable mention, final thoughts. Floor is yours.
Yeah, Besh would be right there from Dives. We mentioned Isaiah Bond earlier in the episode. So disappointing last year, and his combine so disappointing as well.
Dude, he was saying he was going to run in like the 4.2s or something like that.
Yeah, what did he run, a 4.4?
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, I mean, it's not slow, but when it's about setting expectations, right?
Yeah.
Us with wives understand that you have to set expectations, and that's how you handle it. But I the one name I'll throw out there, it's more of a day 3 guy. I actually have a 3rd round grade on him. I love. I might not have a 3rd round grade on him, but he's in my top 100. Is Nick Nash? Nick Nash from San Jose State is a guy who led the country in catches, receiving yards, and touchdowns last year at the wide receiver position. He had 48 catches for 700 yards and 8 touchdowns the year before at San Jose State. Didn't have a great combine, 6.0 relative athletic score. He's 6'2.5". He's got pretty good size. I do think he's an outside receiver. So maybe he's one of the few bites at the apple you can take, especially later in the draft on a potential outside receiver. So Nick Nash, I could see him kind of finding a role. Some Tyler Boyd in his game.
Oh,
yeah. The Isaiah Bond saying he's going to break the combine record and then running a 4.39 was. I immediately went to last year at the combine when Tavondre Sweat weighed in at 366 pounds, which is 99th percentile for defensive tackles. And he told reporters he was going to do the drills. And he told them, when I run the 40, I'm going to shock a lot of y'all. And they asked him what he was going to run. And he said a 4.4. And then he ran a 5.27, which he was clearly joking. And so it was funny, but Isaiah Bond was not. But that's still where my mind went when that happened. So, all right. Well, that's going to do it. We will get you guys out of here. The end of our penultimate. I knew I could get it in there one more time. Position ranking episode. Next week, we will break down our top 10 defensive backs. We're combining corner and safety as we have for the last few years because there's a lot of crossover there. And then on draft week, we will do our helmet stickers, the guys we are highest on over consensus. We'll talk about some of those guys, why we agree and disagree about some of them. And then it will all culminate in our NFL Draft Live show. So stay tuned for more information on that. Our draft guide will be coming out soon. With a lot of prop bets we made earlier on Birds of the Roundtable. So check that show out if you haven't. So that is going to do it for this one. Thank you guys for joining. Shout out to Krabby, who's saying it was a great show here in the comments. We always appreciate you guys for showing up and showing out on the shows, especially knowing this isn't the most like interactive commenty show because we're just giving scouting reports. So it's harder to banter with the crew, but we're glad that you guys are here anyways. So that is going to do it. Follow Ryan on Twitter at Philly Sports PSA. Dibes is at Mr. Crockpot. Mark is at Mark Henry Jr. I am at Shane Huff NFL. We will catch you guys next time.